And thank you all for coming. I know it's a beautiful day and you'd much rather be outside gardening, but we're so happy that you're here. Don't forget to share the love table over there. We've got lots of great goodies to give away. A couple of announcements before we get started. If you are a member of the 2024 intern class, please stand so we can recognize you. Yay. Welcome. We're so excited to have you. We have a table out in the foyer there for emergency contact information. So it's a piece of red tape, some Sharpie pens and scissors. Take off a little piece of tape, write your emergency contact name and phone number, and stick it on the back of your badge. And we'll know what to do then if you should suddenly faint in the middle of a garden. Jam and jelly sales will continue after the meeting. It's $5 per jar, 2 for $9. They accept Zelle, Venmo, and cash. And most of the ingredients, pretty much at least one ingredient in every jar is grown here or at the garden of a master gardener. Please check the website. A lot of you have had questions about the PKS hours, the public knowledge sharing hours, and the guidelines, what counts, what doesn't count. We have a lot of Q&A on the website. If that doesn't answer your question, please email me, president@dallasmga.com. I will personally respond to you, and I will take your questions and put them back on the VMS facts that are going up on the website. So please look at it often. It's going to change as we get more questions. So if you have any concerns about how to enter your hours, let us know, and we'll make sure that those questions get answered. And finally, the last announcement here is badge and pins. We have a table outside. If you are due for an anniversary badge or a pin and have not picked it up, come on out to the table after the meeting and we'll make sure that you get it. And I would like to pass the mic over to our new director at large, Sarah Burke.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Master gardeners are a hard-working group of folks, let me tell you, and we're here to celebrate that today. But on occasion, the words of Sir Paul McCartney apply, and that's, we get by with a little help from our friends. And we get by with help like seeds from Callaway's. We get by with coffee grounds donated by local Starbucks. But other than sun and rain, there's nothing master gardeners like more than mulch. So we are here today to show our appreciation to Richard Lavery, who through his company, Leatherface Tree Service, has gifted the R&B Urban Farm on several occasions loads of mulch, which has been so helpful to their gardens. But Richard is not a dump and leave guy. Richard has showed up here with his crews, and he himself has picked up a shovel to spread the mulch that he donated. So we are delighted to honor him today. So Richard, on behalf of the Dallas County Master Gardener Association, we'd like to give you our certificate of appreciation, and we greatly appreciate your support of our mission. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I told Richard he didn't need to stay for the whole thing, but I think he's interested in this propagation lecture that we're going to have now. And our educator today is our own Glenn McGee. Glenn is in the class of 2022, but let me tell you, that's not when Glenn started gardening. He is a fourth generation farming family. His family started peanut farming, the first peanut farming in southwest Oklahoma. Glenn has worked in multiple community gardens, and he is a valuable member of the urban farm team here. And if this propagation information piques your interest, Just know that he'll be teaching a class with several other Master Gardeners. Let me make sure I get this right. Saturday, March 2nd, it is 9 to 4. It's here in the Rowlett Road facility. The class is almost full, but there are a few spots left. So if anybody's interested, please be free to sign up. And now, Glenn.
Thanks for the announcement about the class. I think there are like maybe 2 openings left, so if anybody's interested, it is $30. You'll be here for most of the day. You'll receive a propagation kit with a lot of the tools that you need to do propagating, and lots of instructors and assistants are going to be helping out, and so you'll get information on propagating a lot of different ways. But this morning, I'm going to try to, as quickly as possible, go through starting seeds, and I'm going to treat this as though maybe we're a little bit earlier and it's not 80 degrees outside, it's still cold. So this is to get your seeds started so that when it gets nice and warm and won't have any more frost, you can actually get those things outside and plant it in the ground. I'm going to see how I can handle this with holding the mic and seeing this and doing the demo at the same time. So if I have to lay down the mic, I will talk really loud to try and make sure everyone can hear me. But if you can't hear in the back at some point, wave me down and make me pick up the mic again, okay? So, AgriLife's mission is to educate the public regarding horticultural practices, and we're here to help with that. Successful seed starting and some pictures of some nice things. I love these little purple tomatoes that look like grapes. I just think they're so cool. Next slide. So what do we start with? If you're going to start your seeds outdoors in nature this time of year, you don't really need to do this step so much. But if you're going to start them in a place that's perfectly warm and perfectly humid and perfectly lit, and there's very little wind and there are no insects and stuff there to begin with, you need to start with some pots that have been probably cleaned pretty well. Wash them with dishwashing soap, use a little bleach and some water to soak them a little bit, kill all the pathogens and things that might be on there, so you've got a fair starting point. Do you have to do that? No. Will it increase your success rate? Yes. So it's one of those things that's a pain to do, but it does help. So you're going to need to use some potting mix. I'm going to talk about potting mix and soil starting mix. Potting mix is heavier, chunkier stuff. The seed starting mix is a lot finer, a lot lighter stuff. Potting mix is cheaper than seed starting mix. So I'm going to tell you a way to use that and try to be as economical as we can be with this. So you need to pre-wet it though, or pre-moisten it. And if you can grab it and make a fist and you get just a couple of drips of water out like that, and you open it up and it stays pretty well clumped together, your soil is moistened properly for you to start. All right, the first thing you're going to do is I start mine in these small, tiny little cells. For tomatoes and peppers and things like that, if this was a squash or a watermelon, I might go ahead and use a little bit larger cup. But for things that are fairly small seeds, I go ahead and start them in these. And I fill each one of these 80% full of the soil, not the seed starting mix, but the potting soil. You're going to need, because you want to, of course, keep neat and not have, in my case, my wife yelling at me about getting stuff everywhere, you need to have some tools to help keep things kind of neat and tidy. So I'm going to start with, I use a 10 by 20 tray with no holes in the bottom. That way when I water and et cetera, the water doesn't run all over my table and all over the world and that kind of stuff. Next, I use a daisy tray of some sort. And that is so when I do water, and I'm going to talk about watering from the bottom later, that I can lift this tray out, go dump the water out in the yard somewhere that's left in here, and then just sit this back in here. And again, it keeps things neat and tidy. I've got my little tiny cells. And part of the reason I use small cells is because in the winter when you're starting seeds, you're going to have a way to warm these things. And I don't know about you, but I don't have a heating mat that is, 5 feet by 6 feet. They're usually pretty small, sort of like the one I've got here. So if you've only got that much space to get seeds warm enough to germinate, you need a lot of seeds in that little tiny small space. So that's why I'm using the little tiny seed cup. So fill it 80% full of the soil, tamp down that soil a little bit. Again, full about 80%. Got to put some seeds in a little ramekin thing here is the way I do it. I put a little bit of water in another one, and then I use either a wooden skewer or a wooden chopstick. If you dip that in the water, and then you can touch and pick up one seed at a time and put it exactly where you want it. So you can take the packet and just tap, tap, tap and sprinkle them around in there, but if you really want to maximize and make sure they get sort of spread around where you want them and that kind of stuff, this is a great thing to use. And I guess it's the, I don't know, it's the wicking action of the stick pulling the water up into the stick that helps hold the seed to the stick when you touch it. So I go ahead and I put in 6 or 8 of these seeds in this 1-inch cup. And we're going to pretend that I've done all of that. Then you're going to go ahead and you're going to need to put on some soil on the top. But I don't use the potting soil. At this point, I use the seed starting mix because it's lighter. The seeds can push up through it more easily. It's also typically made with less types of organic matter in it. It's usually fairly pure peat moss, or in my case, I use a lot of coconut coir. And what that does is the soil gnats, which can be a problem if you're starting seeds indoor, are less likely to want to lay their eggs in a mix of this type than they would in regular potting soil, because there's just not as much microbial action going on in this pure coconut coir or a seed starting mix. So go ahead and put that on top of your seeds. Now the question is how much dirt you put on. Well, hopefully your seed packet tells you. If it doesn't, take the width of the seed times 2, and that is how much of the seed starting mix or a coconut coir that you'll put on top. And again, your coconut coir or seed starting mix should be moistened just like the other soil before you put it on the seeds. So I am so sad that I forgot my tremendously expensive watering bottle. But if you pretend that this were a water bottle, you take it, you put the lid down, you find your drill, your little Dremel or something with a little tiniest drill bit you can find, and drill about 15 to 20 little holes in this. You can screw it back on, and it just allows you to completely control the pressure of how much water pressure you're putting, or you can just let it go and let it just drip. So you have a lot of control over how much hydraulic action is going on when you're watering the seeds. So I love that, and of course it's one way to reuse the plastic that we have way too much of. So a shelving unit is helpful. You can see I've got just a metal rack here that I think is 5 levels deep, 48 inches wide. You may want something much smaller. You may want to start yours on top of the refrigerator. I don't know, but this is my setup in my garage. It's on wheels, so I can move it out of the way when I need to get other tools and things. Lights. You're going to need lights. Everybody asks me, oh, I've got a sunny location in my house. And you may have glass that isn't coated with all sorts of stuff, but a lot of times, most of the time, the light coming through windows is filtered by so many things that by the time it hits the plant, and the number of hours a day that you're getting sun at that time of the winter, it just usually isn't enough to make your plants really super healthy. So I suggest, if you can, buy some fluorescent lights, buy some LED lights, and have those lights out to where you can use them. I use these little tubes like this. They're 4 feet long. I tie 3 of them to some little stick or something and then tie them to my shelves so I can raise and lower them on the shelves, and that works out pretty well. And the lights are also on a timer, just a cheap timer that I buy at a local hardware store, about $10, $15. And one of the things that you'll hear me say several times throughout the presentation is for seed starting with these types of lights, and I'm being 2 inches from either the seeds or the plants as the plant starts to grow, you really kind of need about 16 hours of lights on, 8 hours off. If you've got a timer, you don't have to think about that, it just happens. You're going to want to place them on a heat mat. You can buy these in several different sizes, big enough for 1. This is big enough for 2 trays, actually. And then that plugs into a thermostat. The thermostat has a little probe that you stick in the soil and stick it all the way down to the bottom of the soil. And then it's going to tell you how warm the soil is, because guess what, folks? We don't care how warm the air is. We care how warm the soil is when we're talking about germinating. So we can set this to a different heat. We can set that to 72 degrees, 75 degrees, 80 degrees, just depending on what type of a plant you're starting. Some things like roselle, okra, those types of things like really warm soil. Lettuce can start in fairly cool soil. So depending on the seed, you can set this to a different temperature. Of course, if you've only got one mat, you kind of have to have things that all like some temperature, pick a middle temperature and go with it. If you don't have a heat mat, find the warmest spot in your house, probably on top of your refrigerator or some appliance that has a motor that's kind of running all the time. If you don't want to go out and buy LED lights, I bet you can go out in the garage and find an old fluorescent light somewhere that you haven't used in a long time that you can use as your lighting source. And if it's a fluorescent light, if it's a bluish, greenish light, the ones that made us look horrible in the pictures from the 1970s, those are the ones you want, not the ones that are nice and warm and look like, our regular incandescent lights. So you need a warm area. 72 to 80 degrees is kind of optimal for most things. Maybe above your fridge or some other place, again, if you don't have a heat mat. When it's time to water, the initial watering, when you put the seeds in, I scored it from the top to get all of that packed down in there with the moisture and everything in it. But after that, you've got all of these seedlings in here, so this would be full. If you just take one of those, set it out to the side, take your water, pour it in the bottom through that one spot, put your one little packet of seedlings back. Now it's full of seedlings, it's full of water down in there. Leave it for about 15, 20 minutes. Look at the top of the soil. When the top of the soil turns dark colored, it's absorbed enough water into that you're ready to go. At that point, take your seeds out in your daisy tray, set them to the side, go dump your water out in the yard or somewhere you can reuse it, and then put your tray back in, put it back on your heat mat, and you've done your watering, and the watering will last you probably 2 or 3 days before you need to do it again. As the seedlings grow, keep those lights close. If they're about 2 inches away from the plants as they grow, almost even touching, then they're going to get a lot more light than if they're up here 1.5 feet away from. You've cut the light by about 400% by doing that. So it's better to keep the light really close. Fluorescent lights put a lot more heat than the LED lights do, so you do have to count that into, maybe that is part of your heating processes, using some of that as well. When the seedlings have some true leaves, and they're about 2 inches tall or so, these are a little bit over that, but you can see they have the cotyledons, and then they have a couple of sets of true leaves here. Now you're ready to pot them up to the next size. To do that, I go up to this size cup. You could go a little bit larger if you wanted to. Again, put in your soil until it's about 80% full. Poke a hole in the middle of it. I use my fancy, this one doesn't cost much. So do that. You can take the seedlings, squeeze them around a little bit, and while they're little tender things, they're not really all that tender, quite honestly. They're pretty tough, and you can just rip the soil apart at the bottom, tear off your individual plants. You see we got some nice roots there. Drop those into the hole, press the soil around it, maybe put a little bit more soil because tomatoes you can plant a little bit deeper, water it in, and then at this point, if you've got a place that's 50 degrees, 55 degrees or warmer, you don't need to go back onto a heat mat. So we need the heat mat for the really getting the seed started and the little things. Then when we move up to the bigger cups, we can leave them off the heat mat. But you do still need light. So at that point, if it's a day like this, take it outside, but don't burn it. If you take somebody that hasn't been to the gym like me and tell me to get on the treadmill and go for 2 hours, I'm gonna be pretty wilted and tired. Same thing for plants. If you take them outside and they haven't gotten used to the sun and the wind and all those things, it can be pretty damaging. So start them off easy, 15 minutes one day, 30 minutes one day, 45 minutes, and then when you've built up to about 2 hours, then they can pretty much handle the entire day. On both things, I didn't mention that, but it's just bit me so many times. When you're planting it, fill out the label and put it in, because you'll say, I'll come back in 2 hours and do that. And you come back and you look at all these plants and I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you guys? I don't know who you are, and I think you've all probably experienced that. And then when the temperatures are right, you want to pull one of your plants out, look at it. If you see some nice white roots around the outside, it's time to plant. If you don't see any roots around the outside, well, maybe it needs to stay in the pot a little bit longer. If the roots are wrapped around there like a tornado, you might have waited a little too long. Be sure to loosen those roots up a little bit before you put them in the ground. Transplant your seedlings in the outdoor garden space and enjoy your success. So bonus material, show you some of my, this is Master Gardening. I am not endorsing these products. Yes, I am. Okay. So I love using this. It's called a Cozy Coat or a Wall of Water. You fill these little tubes up with water. You can see this is a big circle. And you set it down, fill these tubes up with water, and it leans in. It looks like a teepee, and it's a miniature greenhouse for your plants. It increases your soil temperature by about 10 to 15 degrees. So I have had my tomatoes. Tomatoes, are they frost tolerant? No. I've had my tomatoes in the ground with these on them since around the 5th of February. They are doing great. So be sure to set these on a piece of cardboard though. If you set them on mulch, mulch is kind of pokey. It can poke holes in the plastic, and then you've got to replace these way too often. I'm trying my hand at using a soil blocker so that we can quit having to use quite so much of these manufactured plastics. It has some tremendous pros and cons, and I'll be glad to talk to any of you after class if you're interested in my experience with this. If you're having trouble with soil gnats, and I keep mentioning them, so guess what? Glenn must have had some problems with them. You can buy mosquito dunks, which are spinosad, basically, hardened spinosad formula. You can put that in your water jug so that when you water, some of the spinosad comes out, or you can crumble them around in the soil and let that help kill the soil gnats. Try to use all your stuff around the house that you can, that you want to reuse, recycle. This has got a little piece of cloth through a hole tied into a knot so that it's self-wicking. It brings the moisture up into my plant area. It's got a dome so it keeps it nice and warm. Again, talking about doing things for free. This is one way to do that. Set this out where it gets some sun each day with your seed in it. It's kind of like winter sowing or whatever. But you need to set this in something. So this has rocks and water. That way the little tail of that material is down in the water and it's wicking up and it keeps it perfectly moist all the time. You don't have to remember to water it. Again, it's just make sure you start slowly. If you set things, if you can't do I'm gonna put it out for 15 minutes in the sun and I'll remember to move them back. If you can't do that, which I get because I burn things because I just forget them sitting out in the middle of my yard, set them up against the house in the shade to where they're getting some reflected sun, but not direct sun, and they can pretty much stay there all day. And that's about the equivalent of leaving them outside in the sun for about half an hour. So that could help out. Okay, you want high lumen, which is bright, high Kelvin, which is cool, blue color. So if you look, those two ratings are supposed to be on the package of every light. I find that they're not necessarily, but they're supposed to be on the outside of the light. If you get a Kelvin above 5,000 and a lumen that is close to the same level, then you've got a bright bluish colored light, and that is great. Don't get the ones that are nice and warm and orangey colored, and if they're too dim, then you do have to get them closer to the plant. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn. And you're probably thinking, Glenn just did this awesome job up here. How are we going to follow up on that? Well, we have Mary Kay Estep. And she will keep you on your toes, and she will have you laughing. And we were so thrilled that Mary Kay has agreed to hand out the awards today.
Okay, well, thank you for having me back again this year. This is the presentation of our 2023 awards. Some people call it our Golden Globe Awards. That'll be good. We'll just use that. As I think about all of the work that goes with and is represented with these awards today, I just start thinking of two words and that just stand out, and that is thank you. And I'd like to come out there and tell each one of you individually, thank you for the work that you do and that you have already done a job well done. You know, we're all volunteers and we enjoy what we're doing, but it's so important that the work does get done, and want to say thank you for doing your job. You know, if you're on the, serve on the board, whew, thank you. That is a huge job. If you're the head of a project, thank you for doing that, because, oh my goodness, there's a lot of work involved in that. And, you know, if you are a regular at a project, thank you for doing that, because people count on you to be there and you show up and you do what you're supposed to do. That's important. And if you're still trying to find that job, that project that fits you, what you want to do, so you're trying a few different jobs at different projects, that's okay. Thank you for doing that, because you're persevering and you're trying to find the exact thing for you. You know, it takes all of us to make the association work. So what I want you to do right now, I know, here she goes. If you will look to your left, if you'll look to your right, but now I'm going to wait, and I want you to tell that person on your left and on your right, thank you for doing a great job. So now you can say you received a thank you today from somebody. So it makes you feel pretty good, doesn't it? Just to know that people appreciate you and say thank you. Well, the first person I wanted to say thank you to was Tig Thompson. He's not here today, but I think that we all know, good grief, what a mess we would be in if we didn't have Tig keeping us all straight. So let's give him a round of applause even though he's not here. Okay, now let's go on with our recognition of our fellow Master Gardeners. And like I said, I brought my bag of tricks, so we'll see what happens there. Okay, so first of all, we would like to recognize our contribution this year, oh heavens, not a month, to Dallas County. And, you know, we always just do miraculously well on this. This is about $200,000 more dollars than last year. I was looking to see. So, you know, I think we do great. And the part I really like is where it says that it's 109.5 hours each is what it averages out. So I want to thank you for boosting my average. Jeez. My goodness. So, you know, but as you can see, we've valued all of our hours at $1,378,514. Let's hear it for Master Gardeners. So, as you know, a few years ago, we reinstated the class captain program. And so you can find your class, excuse me, and see who the class captains are for your class. These little classes at the first, they've kind of dwindled, so they have 1 or 2 people. And I was looking at the recent classes, they're still pretty large, and they have 2 or 3 people, so that's great. But the class captains work a lot with Tig, and Tig will tell us you know, something to send a message out to you all. And it's just kind of an they're just an intermediary, I pick a word I can't say, intermediary person to fill in for Tig, a way that he can communicate with the whole association. So let's thank all of these people for doing this work. So now we're going to do the anniversary name badges. And they were out on the front porch out there. How fun to get to have them outside. But when you came up, and if you didn't get it then, you may get it after the meeting. So the first class we want to recognize is the class of 2018. This is their first set of new badges. They get their Texas badge, and so this is 5 years that they have been Master Gardeners. And you know, I'd read all those names, but there's some names in there that are pretty tricky. So we're just going to sit here in a minute and let you look and see. So if you are in the class of 2018, would you please stand up and we'll recognize you that way. Yay! Thank you. All right, our fancy badge, next fancy badge is our platinum badge, and this is for the class of 2013. And this is for 10 years of working in Master Gardeners. And, 2013, Maggie, this was our group. Yes, well, I'll have to read these. Okay, so as I read your name, will you please stand up? Cindy Bowles, Jan Colvin, Zandra, Brenda, Cynthia, Mary, Pat, Lauren, Marquise, Ann, Lynn, Barbara, Joanne, Vivian, Cecily, Rick, and Sandra. If you're here, will you stand up? All right, everybody up, everybody up. Great, oh my goodness, it's been 10 years? Whew, okay. The next group is the class of 2008. And this is a platinum badge, but it gets 1 star on the platinum badge. And this badge represents those that have been in the organization for 15 years. So will this group please stand up? It's Linda Alexandra, Barbara Barbie, Deborah Cook, Peggy DeFore, Roseanne Ferguson, Susan Jones, Joe LaBay, Janet K. Smith, Susan Thornberry, and Martha Vinendahl. I know you're here. Yeah. Roseanne, stand up. Is there anybody else here off this list? Yay, Rosie! Okay, so that's glad we're represented anyway. Okay, and then our next fancy badge is the platinum badge with 2 stars, and this is for the class of 2003. Do you realize that is 20 years? Those of you that are interns, can you imagine doing this for 20 years? So we want to honor Gail Cook, Dick Cope, Diane Roberts, and Cindy Wabner. Are any of them here? I know Dick's here. I saw him a minute ago. Thank you for being really a role model for all of us. This year, we have the honor of presenting the fanciest badge to Steve Hauser. Is Steve here today? I guess he's working or volunteering, one or the other. This badge represents 25 years of service to the Master Gardeners, and it's from the class of 1998. So, whew, he's been here forever as far as I'm concerned, so that's great. Well, we'll be sure he gets his badge. So after the meeting today, what we'll do is everybody that got a new badge today will go outside and we'll take your picture by classes out there, okay? So remember that. Okay. Well, in addition to recognizing special numbers of years, we also recognize special hours that people do of service. And the intern class of 2023 they had 5 people that had over 100 hours. Now, I can tell by seeing these names, I've seen these names over and over on these slides, they didn't get just 100 hours. Some of them got a whole lot more than that. So will these 5 names, Michael Bloom, I'm kind of straining my neck here, Sandra Heathernick, oh my goodness, Heatherwick, see there's one of those names, Barbara Leedy, Janice Pruitt, and Valerie Reese. Please stand up. Yay! So that's really a hard task to achieve over 100 hours, and especially when you're an intern and you're already doing a lot of extra stuff anyway. So you should be really proud of that. Thank you for that. The next slide is, it barely fits on the screen. Thank you. So this is the members, the full-time members that have achieved over 100 hours this time. And, thank you for doing that, because that's a lot of projects that got a lot of good volunteer work. If you, I'm not going to read that list, so everybody just relax. It's okay. So if you can see your name, at least Tig put it in alphabetical order for us, thank goodness. So if you can find your name and you're on there, we would like to recognize you. So please stand up and we will recognize you. Okay, so we also have special little pins that represent accumulative years. And so, these are mixed classes and everything because people accumulate their time at different times during, over the years. So the first group is the bronze pin, and that is if they've accumulated 250 cumulative hours. So I want to recognize these people. I'm not going to read all those names either, but do you see your name up there? If you do, would you please stand up? Now we're getting serious about our hours, because next is our silver pin, and this is a group that has accumulated 500 hours of service. Now, I was doing a little figuring, and I thought if they worked 40 hours a week, it would take over 12 weeks to make 500 cumulative hours, and that's 40 hours a day, every day. So let me see. I think you guys can read your names there. If your name is on there, will you please stand up? Okay, these people have achieved 1,000 cumulative hours. Oh my goodness, to me that is just a goal that's probably out of reach for me. But they will receive a gold pin, and this one represents, like I said, 1,000 hours of service to Master Gardeners. Look, right here. There they are. Stan Altschuler, Claudia Barner, Joanne Brennan, Joe Elsner, excuse me, I just renamed him, Rod Gable, Connie Gutierrez, Neil Howard, Kim Kirkhart, Kathy Line, Glenn McKee, Ellen Mooney, Monica Nagel, Jackie Obergfell, and Dorothy Thompson. 1,000 hours. Will you stand up, please? But wait, I was going to say, because there's one more special honor of recognition. This is the Trowel Award. This is special recognition of those that have achieved, are you ready? 2,500 cumulative hours. That is a lot of work. That is a lot of work. And when I call your name, why don't you come up to the front of the room? So we have Beverly Allen, Ned Buxton, Lori Drobo, Wendy Leans, oh, I'm sorry, it's probably not right, John Maxwell, Cookie Peden, and Larry Thompson. If you're here, come on up. All right, our next award is the Gardening Glove Award, and it's also known as the Dirty Dozen Award. I love that one. This is the top 12 volunteer contributors every year, and so it changes from year to year. The Gardening Glove pin is only awarded one time, and if you're a repeat person, you are called the honorable mention. So, but it's the top 12 volunteers out of everybody. So, this year we have one new member we have one new member to the group, and that is Glenn McGee. So, Glenn, will you come up here? And then we want to recognize the honorable mention because these are all people that have earned the Dirty Dozen rank. So Beverly Allen, Ned Buxton, Roseanne Ferguson, Jackie James, Cynthia Jones, Mark Jones, Mary Claire Milner, Lisa Patterson, Cookie Peden, Sarah Sanders, and Tig Thompson. And would you all please come to the front? Well, we're also super lucky to have a fantastic speakers bureau. If you've never been in an organization that used one of our speakers, you're really missing something. We had a little garden club where I used to live, and I invited some speakers from the Speakers Bureau to come, and I mean, we were just blown away with the quality of the lecture that they gave us, and we were just like, oh, we just kind of plant flowers, you know, and they were excellent, excellent. They are very talented speakers, and they know their subject matter, and they represent our association, and they represent each one of us when they go out to speak. So this year, every year they choose one new Speaker of the Year. And this year, of course, it is Janet D. Smith. So Janet, will you come to the front? And our next award is the Shooting Star Awards. And this one is a person that has done so much work, or more than one person who has done so much work for the not only the association but Texas A&M, and so they just are really outstanding in what they're doing, and they are chosen by the president with input by the board, which is really important, and you can only receive this award one time. So, Monica, would you like to come and present this, please?
Thank you, Mary Kay. How about another round of applause for Mary Kay? You're doing awesome. So about a month ago, the planning committee started organizing this monthly meeting, and it was Sue Smith, Sarah Burke, Dorothy Thompson, and of course, Mary Kay was front and center. Oh. We wanted you to be up here presenting all the awards and doing the fabulous job that you do every year. And normally Mary Kay would present the Shooting Star Awards. And I think you were a little taken aback that we didn't ask you to do it this year, and there's a reason for that. You are one of the recipients. Oh. So we thank you for all of your support of the program.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, and we would also, and these are Master Gardeners who have gone above and beyond year after year. The other recipients who we are so grateful towards. Our Ned Buxton, come on up, Ned. I saw you earlier. Mary Cunningham, Lori Dropo, Janet Lane, Lisa Lowe Miller, Bertha Matthews, Joellen Noby, Linda Seidel, Marty Slocum, and Elaine Webster. If you could all come up, we would appreciate that. Next, we have 2 awards, actually 3. Barbara Barbie also got an award, but she can't make it today. And we have 2 other awards for extraordinary merit. The first one goes to Jackie James, who's the class of 1993, and she has 30 years of service to the Master Gardener program and 5,000 cumulative hours. So that is the equivalent of 2.5 years of full-time employment, and at a volunteer rate of $31.80 an hour, she has contributed $159,000 to the organization. So Jackie, come on up. And the last award for extraordinary merit goes to Roseanne Ferguson. Roseanne has 25,000 cumulative hours. That is, I'm glad y'all are seated. This is the equivalent of 12.5 years of full-time employment. At the going rate of today's volunteer service hours, Roseanne has contributed $795,000 in volunteer work to the organization. Next is Elaine Webster.
We are within 90 days of the garden tour, so very exciting. So we're getting there. Everything is full steam ahead, and it's just very exciting. We had a meeting this week with our garden owners, that have graciously let us feature their gardens for the tour, and there's a lot of excitement. And I tell you, their gardens, just listening to them, are going to be even more fabulous than what we first saw them as. So it'll be a very awesome tour. We're very excited about it. So we've got 6 unique and beautiful gardens. They're all in the East Dallas area. And if you've seen our presentation before, you know all of that. We also have 2 pass-by gardens that are amazing pollinator gardens that will be on the tour too. The tickets are almost ready to go on sale. We'll have a QR code that we'll be posting everywhere, on the website, on all of our publicity information, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere we can find to post it. So the tickets will be $18 prior to the tour, $22 at the event, just so you know. So everybody get their tickets, and it'll be an amazing event. It will just be on one day. It's Saturday, May 18th, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The other thing, just for anybody that's kind of a newbie to the Dallas County Master Gardeners Association, all of these gardens are all of the gardens that are featured are Master Gardener gardens. Or they are like Janet D. Smith is, we've got the bathhouse, the Cultural Center bathhouse at White Rock Lake. She developed that garden. The Master Gardeners maintain it, keep it going. So they're all Master Gardener gardens. So that's the really amazing thing about this tour. I wanted to list again just the lead folks on this so that everybody can, remember these. And if you need anybody you need to talk to, or anything that you want to help out with, these are the folks to talk to. And again, myself, Elaine Webster. I am heading the fundraising chair. And then we got Margaret, who's heading education and communications, Christy Lawrence, who is our publicity chair, Chris Geyer, who is our garden chair, and Nancy Black, who is our the past chair of this event, who also is our mentor and sponsor. So she's been giving us a lot of help. So there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes for quite a few months on this, but it's into high gear now. So, and then the next thing we wanted to do is we are about ready to have Sign Up Genius come out for volunteers for the day of the event. So I asked Chris Geyer, who is our garden chair, to say a few words about the volunteer opportunities that'll be available.
Anyway, we could not put on this show without our volunteer help, and a lot of y'all have already come forward volunteering to help us out. So I'm going to kind of highlight what the roles are, and if you're still kind of wishy-washy, we hope that you will, first week of March, be going on the Sign Up Genius come forward to help us. We'd love to have you. So we are going to have garden prep if the owner wants it, to work with planting or mulching or weeding or whatever. So the garden captain will be overseeing this group and will be scheduling that. Another area, and 3 people have already signed up for safety, and we're going to be walking the gardens prior to the tour, identifying things that might be a potential safety item or issue, and trying to figure out how to resolve that or prevent it from even happening. That would be the key. And then the day of, it's going to be a very busy day. It's probably going to start early for a lot of us, but we're going to have setup. And one of the things is going to be putting up those great canopies that we're going to have at each garden. We're going to have a welcome table, and that's going to be the first volunteers that people who come to the garden will see. So these will be the greeters. They'll be doing ticket sales. They'll be armbanding people or checking armbands if somebody's already bought a ticket. We will have docents. The docent has a key role. There are going to be several docents at each garden, and they're kind of the resource for a particular area of the garden. So they will answer questions. They'll be referring to their cheat sheet plant lists if they need to, answering questions from all of the visitors. They'll also kind of serve as a guide throughout the garden, pointing out any safety issues, pointing out key features. There's a lot of key features in these gardens. So. And then runners, we couldn't do without the runners. They're going to be our go-to for help. They'll be standing in for everybody when they're taking lunch breaks or bathroom breaks, making sure everybody's getting enough water and so on. So the shifts are, for those of y'all that are already thinking in your mind, I'm going to sign up. There's an AM shift that goes from 9:30 to 1:30. There's a PM shift that will start at 1 to 5, and notice there's some overlap in there. And then you could also sign up for the whole day. You'll get more credit for that, and you'll be familiar by the afternoon from what you did in the morning. You could also choose to spend the morning in one garden and then go to another garden in the afternoon. Okay? So please sign up. Watch for Sign Up Genius.
Thank you, Chris. So I have just a few other slides to show you. We wanted to give you a couple of snippets of the gardens. We thought we'd do a few close-ups this time, just to kind of to get you excited about this. We've got, like, Susie Renz's garden has all kinds of eclectic signs and unique pots that she uses, and architectural, items throughout the garden. And quite a few of the garden owners do the same thing. Jennifer Bauer's garden, same thing. There's quite a bit of architectural things that are done in unusual ways. So it's fun to see. And then some of the other gardens also have, there's the bathhouse, that's a really amazing pollinator garden. There's also Texascapes or Texas native plants in all of these gardens. Yes, that's a very good question. So as far as plant lists go, Margaret actually is working with all of the garden owners on lists of all of their main plants in their gardens. Those lists will be available through a QR code at each garden. So anybody coming will be able to see all of the plants that are in that garden. And so it's an amazing thing to put together, but she's doing like little pictures of the flowers or the plants and information on it. So that'll be really nice. So we'll also have probably a couple of printed out copies and one that's laminated, so people can also just take pictures of it if that's easier for them to look at it. But yes, we will have plant lists of each of the gardens. And then otherwise, we also have, Nancy Griswold has a lot of raised vegetable beds, and her mission is to, really communicate that, grow your food to eat at your table. So there's some wonderful things like that. We've got Vera Gillen, who has like an amazing she shed that she also uses also as a potting shed. They eat dinner in there sometimes. There's also a lot of really nice outdoor living areas that are in these gardens, swimming pools. There's also lots of alleyways being used to put in raised vegetable beds and, just dead space that, you don't think about using, that folks have used, and that, like, especially the neighbors love it. Of course, the birds, the bees, butterflies, everybody loves all of that. So just lots of amazing things to see on the tour. And it's nice too because we have shade gardens, we have sunny gardens. Some of the gardens have shade and sun. We've got terraced gardens. We've got smaller gardens. Just a wide variety. So hopefully, folks coming to the tour will be able to see what they can do. It'll be really nice for horticultural education on what they can do with their gardens. We will have speakers and educators at each of the gardens really throughout the day at each of the gardens. Some of them will be doing demos, some of them will be doing speeches, just a variety of things. So lots of fun things going on. Also just wanted to put a shout out. We still do need fundraising help on the tour. Not only do we make money off the tickets, we also make it off of our sponsors. And of course their logo or their name will get put out on social media as far as a shout out, also on our website, also on the back of our t-shirts. We'll also be doing big poster signs, thank you signs at each of the gardens. So, and also, depending on the level, they'll get, free tickets, for people that they want to bring to the tour. But we do still need fundraising help. So contact me if you have anybody in mind you think would be a good sponsor. You can either let me know that you're going to contact them yourself, or you can let me know, hey, I'd like one of your group to contact them. Our deadline for getting sponsors in is March 15th, because we need to have all the information so we can print off our signs and our t-shirts and things like that. So, but we still need sponsors, so, just remember that. And I think that's it. So thank you all very much for your support of the tour. Really appreciate it.
I'd like to give just another shout out to Mary Kay and to Glenn for presenting today. We appreciate your guidance and your education. Thank you very much. And now for the fun part. And thank you all for coming today. Thanks to Glenn, again to Mary Kay, and to